Welcome, pugs and smooth milking cats, to Geek Salad's movie review. This is not actually a retro review, as Mike and I are going to cover pretty much the most current hit of the cinema.
Released only about 2 weeks ago.
Denis Villeneuve's Dune.
Villeneuve.
So I have made no secret in the almost 14 years that we have done this podcast and these videos that I am in love with the dumpster fire that is David Lynch's 1984 Dune. So for me, also as a fan of the books, and I'll say that because of the 1984 movie, I got into the books. And I really enjoy the books, and I enjoy the progression that the books make. So, how does a movie, which is part one of a more loyal adaptation of the book, stack up? Mike, the question goes to you first. How does it stack up?
Well, better than the David Lynch one, that's for sure.
Okay, yep, and that is fair. It's hard to compare the two, so I'm going to try to avoid that as much as possible today.
Right. Well, I mean, for one, it's taking a very, very long and very dense book.
Yes.
And splitting it into like I'm assuming about 2.5 hour movies.
Well, that's the issue. And we'll talk about that in a minute. This part one is 2.5 hours long.
Right. So I mean, just take that as you will from the David Lynch one. That's about a little over 2 hours.
2:17 total.
And so it's cutting out a lot less of the book, so you can have a more comprehensive one. The movie was really good, not without its issues. It certainly had a fair share of issues with it, but overall, I really enjoyed it.
Right, I enjoyed it too. Just like you, I will air my grievances in a minute, but I felt the movie was beautiful. I felt it looked gorgeous. I love the art direction. I love the cinematography. I love the costumes. Not a big fan of the Hans Zimmer score.
I mean, that's the thing, is like with the score, unless it's like really jumps out and it's like really prominent for my first viewing, I never really kind of key into it until subsequent viewings. And I've really only seen this once or twice. And
for me, again, it bears mentioning that, as silly as it is, the Toto score is kind of iconic in the way that Dune goes. So Hans Zimmer, I feel, is your go-to, at least now. Here's your go-to composer when you've got a lot of lofty ideas and you've got epic movie on the brain, and you just immediately go to him.
Well, especially Warner Brothers.
Huh?
Especially Warner Brothers.
Especially Warner. Oh God, yeah.
Warner Brothers adores Zimmer.
Yeah. And while I can appreciate a lot of like the throat singing that they put in there, because it does fit in more with how Frank Herbert portrayed the Fremen as opposed to how Lynch portrayed the Fremen.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense, but the score is all over the place. It's very in your face, and it's tough because I know your feelings on his Lion King score. So your favorite score of all time, one of your favorite scores of all time, right?
Yeah.
This is just, it's there, but it insists upon itself.
I mean, that's the thing with Zimmer, is that when he's good, he is phenomenal.
Yeah.
When he's not good, he's just not remarkable.
Right.
He kind of really fluctuates between the two.
Yeah. And it's funny too when he is kind of like, you can tell when he's grafting other people's stuff, like Klaus Blaudel's score from Pirates of the Caribbean. He was replaced with Hans Zimmer in the subsequent sequels, and it's just like,
yeah,
there it is. But moving off of Hans Zimmer, I'll I'll be straight up. I do like this movie. I think I gave it like a 7.5 out of 10, which
You know what? That's fair. I would say about 7.5,
yeah,
8
right.
out of 10.
It's what is good is amazing.
Yeah.
What doesn't work, or I'm just gonna put it out there straight up. That ending left me cold. That was no, even for a part one, which we'll get into that in a second. Even for a part one, that was no way to end a movie. And I know a lot of people got very upset about that. And it kills me. It disgusts me that I actually have that in common with Ben Shapiro, because Ben Shapiro said the exact same thing. It's like, well, the movie just ended there. I mean, my wife, who I can't please sexually, she couldn't understand that either. But
It didn't bother me because I knew it was part one, so I knew they had to end it somewhere.
it had to end somewhere. I just did not care for it that being the ending. And the reason why, to go a little deeper in this, is that when they ended this movie, when they ended the cut of this movie, keep in mind this movie was supposed to be released last December.
Yeah.
They've had a year of deciding what the plan was going to be, and they greenlit it last week. So with that said, they're looking at what, a 2022, 2023 release, right?
That would probably be most
2023.
likely.
Yeah, that is the potential release date.
Yeah.
Barring we're out on the other side of this hellscape that we're in now, but that is essentially 3 to 4 years after filming wrapped on the first movie.
Yeah.
So you could have ended this movie with Paul having been taken in, not only been taken in by the Fremen, but start to learn their customs. Because what's going to happen is, and I was joking with my friend Steve about this, that the second sequel is just going to have to be in the 3 standard years that followed, where they just have, it's even in the book, it's that jump where Paul goes from being taken in by the Fremen to leading them as a military leader. And there is a lot of stuff in there that I know that they don't want to skip, especially when it comes to Paul and Chani's first child. So you got that there. It felt weird. And what killed me more than anything, even though Autumn and I are both watching that and going, that was it, was when Paul... He's bullshit. He's walking with the Fremen, he's walking with Chani, and then he turns his head, and there's some dude riding a sandworm, like, woohoo!
It's like,
that
someday.
Say what you will about how, Lynch's movie, everything. But when Paul rode the worm, there was just like this, like, oh, how can he do this? How is this gonna happen? And he did it. So watching some dude already out there, like, yeah.
It's like Iron Man 1. It's like, someday, next time, baby.
Next time, baby. Yeah, exactly. It's like some dudes just doing donuts in the sand with a Shai Hulud.
So Timothy Chalamet is going to be replaced by
Terrence Howard.
Yeah.
My turn now, baby. I feel like, it left me cold, because when you think about how part ones work, first of all, it's next to never that the first story is broken into a two-parter unless it's for TV. Paul doesn't really change as a human being until little later on in this book we haven't covered yet. And more so in Messiah, the second book. And Villeneuve said he wants to make 3 movies. He wants to make Dune 1 and 2, and then make Dune Messiah.
As far as I've read, I've only read Dune.
Okay.
I haven't gotten any further than that.
I've read them all.
I know you have.
Oh, yeah. But there's a lot. I mean, quite honestly, I've always felt that if you really want to do Dune Justice, you take that Warner Brothers money and you apply it to HBO and make this is your new Game of Thrones.
Well, I mean, if
this
you
is
want
your new Westworld, where you can do high budget sci-fi and weekly hour-long installments where the breaks don't seem as weird, and you could continue going, because at some point, once you end those first 3 books, then it gets weird and then it gets horny.
Well, I mean, if he's really going to follow the books, then wouldn't he go to Children of Dune before Dune Messiah?
No, Dune Messiah is the second book.
I thought it was Children of Dune.
No, Children of Dune is the third book.
Oh, I see it.
However, if you want to kind of get technical about stuff, if you are one of those people that will include the writings of Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, Frank Herbert's son, who, whether or not he's actually taking notes from his dad or not.
Yeah.
There were 2 interstitial books that were released about 12 years ago. The first one was called Paul of Dune, which takes place between Dune and Dune Messiah. And then Sands of Dune, which takes place between Dune Messiah and Children of Dune. Mm-hmm. So there are stories in between that. They kind of stopped doing those after a while, which I'm kind of glad they did, because after Children of Dune, there's a 1,500-year jump. So,
yeah.
But I feel like, and this is kind of the curse of doing what we do, is that we know a lot about how the industry works. We know about how things work, and how Warner Brothers can just, without even thinking about it, step on their own dick when it comes to a successful anything. Yeah. So the mere fact that there were no plans to make this second movie until now, and now what are they going to do? They're going to rush. If they're going to release this in 2 years, filming, you're going to rush filming, you're going to rush production, you're going to rush a script, which I'm assuming is there. I'm hoping it's there already.
I'm assuming that the script was already.
I would assume at least the script is there, and then having to do the post production, having to do all that, and it's just going to feel, it sounds silly to say, and follow my logic here, it's going to feel like a sequel, like just a disjointed sequel, like.
You know what? I'm willing to give Denis Villeneuve the benefit of the doubt, maybe because he is a very accomplished filmmaker.
He is.
I'm not the biggest fan of some of his other stuff.
Like a lot of people do.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of some of his other stuff. Yeah. But he does know how to make a film, and he has been planning this one for a while. So
yeah,
I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt in this case.
Right. I just think that after this, because what's going to end up happening is that they'll put Dune 2 out. All of the shine from this one will be gone by that point. Just being a realist here. Again, I'm not talking poorly about this movie. I'm just saying that the shine from this movie will be gone in 2023. So now you've got to reinvigorate that.
Yeah.
And then what happens? It's this one, say Dune 2 makes as much as the first one does. So now you move to Dune Messiah, and then all of a sudden, Paul isn't the same Paul. Paul is responsible for the death of 61 billion people. And you got pissed off at Luke Skywalker for, having a crisis of faith of being a Jedi. But Paul can't be evil. Paul is totally evil. He literally committed genocide.
Which, that's one thing that kind of threw me off about this one, is like the constant flashing to the visions and all that.
Yeah,
it wasn't always a smooth. Like sometimes, like it'd just be like, "Oh, he's in a vision now, and now he's not." And it's like, so is he in the vision now or not? Or where does the vision start and where's the vision end? It wasn't always very clear about that.
Right.
And
the other thing too is that I am a firm believer that you can only be so faithful to a book before it gets tedious. There are so many pieces of this movie that for it to be a true part 1 of 2, without naming scenes, I could probably trim 20 minutes out of this movie. There's a lot of looking majestically at things. There's a lot of just people staring out to something, and you hear like that. So
it was a beautiful movie. So I mean, if I was in the movie, I'd be staring at it too because it's gorgeous to look at.
Oh, absolutely is gorgeous, and I think that they did a great job building the worlds. I know we're following the book, and you don't really, at this point in the break, you don't get to know the Harkonnens well. How long it's taken me to train my voice to say Harkonnen as opposed to Harkonnen?
Yeah, that was weird.
Don't
I didn't hate it. It's just weird.
Well, the funny thing was, I remember when we were watching that, and Catherine had mentioned it, and she's like, "Well, that's the pronunciation they give you in the book." It's like, I don't give a shit. It's been 37 years.
Yep.
It's been 37 years. It's always been Harkonnen to me. Even when I read the books, it was still Harkonnen. It's House Harkonnen by Brian Anderson and Brian Herbert and Frank and Kevin J. Anderson.
I am just kind of curious, where in the book does it say it's pronounced Harkonnen?
Harkonnen. I'm saying there's like a pronunciation guide, which might actually be more attributed to the Dune Encyclopedia, which I had it right after the movie. That was my first Dune book, was the Dune Encyclopedia, and I had no idea what to expect because it goes up until God Emperor of Dune. Okay. It didn't hit Heretics yet. It came out. It was written prior to the book Heretics of Dune coming out, so it ends at God Emperor, which is a fantastic novel. It really is.
The only thing I know about God Emperor of Dune is that the cover of the book had a giant sandworm with a human face in it.
Leto the Second.
Okay.
He becomes Shai Hulud. It's
okay.
It's weird, but again, this is why it might have worked better as a TV series than as a movie, because say we get the 3 books, okay, and they're all big hits. Now you're expecting a mainstream audience to sit through maybe a 2-parter about the dude who is the worm complaining about, where's my dick?
Does he really talk about that in the book?
He has thoughts about his, what happened to his appendages and stuff. It's like I said, after this, it just gets super horny.
Fair enough.
So actor-wise, Timothée Chalamet is eternally 16. I'm convinced he's a vampire.
Yeah, it was weird seeing like him having the visions of the romance with Johnny, because honestly, neither him nor Zendaya look very much older than 17, 18.
Yeah. I mean, I know Timothée Chalamet is, I think, like 24, 25.
Yeah, something
like
that.
But he looks like a 16-year-old. There are parts, though, where he looks like the singer Paula Jean Harvey. It was just like... I think in terms of casting, it was tough to really get a beat on anybody, because I never felt like the characters are dispatched in the grand scheme of the story so quickly, even though it takes a while to kill certain characters.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing this essentially spoilery because I have a feeling anyone who's watching this review has seen the movie.
Yeah. Or at least read the book, so we're not really spoiling anything from a story that's been around for 60-odd years.
A very interesting thing about Jason Momoa's Duncan Idaho. He runs away with this first movie. He really does. He's very much the most fun, most enjoyable, most watchable part of this movie.
I have a massive man crush on Jason Momoa.
Well, yeah. Oh, so we're watching it, and he just looks like Khal Drogo at the beginning of the movie, and then when they come back, and he shaves. Autumn was like, "Oh,
yeah." I liked him better with the beard too.
It was weird. It was like someone put like a black long-haired wig on a potato and just put it on a still suit. It was weird. It was like, oh, dude, no. But I think the best response what I heard was when Duncan is killed and killed heroically.
Yeah.
You're not upset because Duncan Idaho was killed. You're upset because Jason Momoa was killed.
I mean, to be fair, I was upset about both. I mean, right. I really like Jason Momoa, but Duncan Idaho as a character was easily the most lovable character in the entire book.
Well, get used to him because he's in all the friggin' books.
Yeah, I like looked that up. He's like, doesn't he come back as a zombie or something like that?
Not as a zombie. So there's technology that can bring the living cells of somebody back. They're called a Gola. I mean, they're essentially the same person, just with like black, almost robotic eyes.
Okay.
So yeah, Duncan Idaho gets through all the books, all of them.
Okay.
Which, if you're going to build your entire film series around it, but then again, I mean, at the rate they're going, it's going to take 20 years to finish.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but I just felt like, he's just doing that Jason Momoa thing, which, thank God he's charming, because
I did like Josh Brolin as well. You guys, Gurney?
I like Josh Brolin as well, but he dropped off the face of the planet. Like, there's a certain point, and then he's just gone. Thufir Hawat is the same thing, and it drove me nuts. No explanation about what a Menten is. He makes one eye rolling motion, and that is him. That was computer,
cool. That was cool.
That was cool. But
I did want to see more.
Yeah, I wanted more of him, because Thufir is a great character. I like that what we got with Piter, who is his Harken counterpart.
Oh, played by David.
The dude from Ant-Man and the Suicide Squad.
Yeah. I love him every time he shows up, but I can never pronounce his last name.
Yeah, but they have the red stained limbs of the Menten.
Yeah.
So they consume the Sappho juice, and it is gives them the ability to acquire thought and speed. And essentially they're the ones who replaced computers.
Sure.
It's just, there's a lot of actors there. I feel Jason Isaac had very little to do.
I would say probably my biggest complaint about the movie, especially, and oddly enough, I thought the David Lynch one did a lot better than this one, is that I thought I did not buy the relationship between Jason Isaac, Duke Leto, and Lady Jessica.
Yeah, I didn't either.
He had one scene of tenderness, but I never felt any kind of chemistry between the two. It felt very almost clinical. And in the David Lynch one, there was a deep affection. There was a deep love between the two.
Well, considering too that the whole reason for Paul's existence, take care of it. Whole reason for Paul's existence is that, she gave him a son when she was ordered to bear daughters, but her love for the Duke caused her to go against her Bene Gesserit orders. So yeah, I didn't feel like there was any love or tenderness there. I mean, they're not a married couple. She is his concubine, and that is well established.
Yeah.
In the book, I didn't feel I didn't feel any of that love or tenderness. And even like the stuff with Paul and Leto, it was a little like there was all those little glances, but I felt like more of that fatherly bond with Jürgen Prochnow and Kyle MacLachlan. And then on the Harkonnen side, I mean, Stellan Skarsgård was good. It's tough, because I'm glad that he played it that understated.
Yeah, that is one thing I definitely prefer. Is I mean, the David Lynch one, he was this one he's just
right.
He's Stellan Skarsgård played it perfectly, I thought.
Right. And then Dave Bautista was a weird one for me, because I felt like he had the opportunity to really take that beastly thing, instead of making it like, I'm going to talk like this for just a second and then I should shout. It was like, I didn't feel like I got enough of Raban in this one. He is essentially, for this half of the book, he is the prominent Harkonnen, is Glossu Raban.
And it seems like he's kind of like, it seems like they're not even going to be bringing in Fade Rautha. It's all Beast.
No. Fade Rautha doesn't show up until much later in the first book. All right, and that's the thing too, is that the character of Fade Rautha is the Boba Fett of this first book. People friggin' love him. I mean, for the love of God, what do I have here on my Funko thing? I will kill him with cuteness.
I'm kind of surprised you don't have the one with him and just the little tidy whitey.
Oh yeah, no, that I had to order online. I didn't feel like doing that. But I mean, Fade is he's like the Boba Fett. He doesn't do a whole lot. He kills like one person in the book, in kind of like a birthday duel, and then he dies at Paul's hands. We all know that. We all saw the '84 movie.
Yeah.
But going back, I had actually dropped out of the Dune Facebook page I was in because just the fantasy casting for this second movie was getting out of hand. It was just like, could you please just thread these or something? Because I don't, I don't care who's playing the Emperor at this point, because you're going to be pissed too if it's not the person you pick.
Yeah.
And with Fade is supposed to be Paul's age. Fade was essentially supposed to sire and heir with the Atreides' daughter that ended up being Paul.
Yeah.
And theirs was going to be the one that sealed the breach and maybe created the Kwisatz Haderach, the universe's super being. So they are supposed to be of the same age.
Which would have been kind of creepy, though, given that Lady Jessica is supposed to be the Baron's daughter.
Yeah, even though he does not know that.
Yeah, and they, I don't know if that's supposed to be not revealed until the second one, or if they're just not going to.
It's actually never revealed. It is revealed, like in small little things, and when you go into Children of Dune, actually, yeah, is it Children of Dune? Actually, I think it's in Dune where, it is revealed. Alia calls him grandfather.
Oh yeah, at the very, very end, yeah.
Yeah, but and then he goes back and he haunts her from beyond the grave in Children of Dune. So it's a whole other story for a movie that we probably will never see. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that nonsense going on there, but I like, again, it's tough to get a real beat on the characters because I don't feel like, even if you're trying to keep it accurate to the book, and this is where you cut it off, you don't really get a good read on the villains. Other than like the faceless, like stormtrooper types that you're going to get, the Sardaukar and the Harkonnen soldiers.
Yeah. I did like the fact that the Sardaukar always spoke the Sardaukar language.
Yes.
When like Piter was actually there talking to him, they were responding Sardaukar. It's like, yeah, we know your language. We're not going to speak it. We speak Sardaukar.
Right. Exactly.
And that was really cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And the one character I wanted to get to see more of was Stilgar. Oh my God! Why can't I think of his name now?
Oh, dang it! Oh, hold on, I got it. Oh,
please look it up. Yeah.
The only problem is I'm not wearing my glasses because they reflect, and I didn't.
Yeah. Okay, hold on a second. I can't think of. Why can't I think of the actor's name?
Javier Bardem.
I wanted to see more of him. Scene he was in, he stole that scene.
Oh yeah, when he went out and walked in the spit.
Yeah.
And
I love that too. It's like, no, he's honoring you with his moisture.
Yeah. That was a really cool scene. And
that was a great scene.
But with a character like Stilgar, you're really not going to get more of him until you get into the Fremen, and you're not really getting more into the Fremen until the second part.
This returns us back to the issue with cutting off the movie where it cuts off. Well, it's just, you don't have I understand what they're going for. This is a big book. They're going to split into two. But you don't get to know anybody. You barely get to know Paul and Jessica at this point.
When was the last time Warner Brothers did a questionable film decision? Come on.
Oh, geez, I know. But the sick thing is, too, if you think about their track record with other movies, like the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
Those are pretty much all planned out. We're going to film this one. Kids, take a month off. We'll see you in a month. We'll come back and do the next book. And those were well plotted out. I mean, hell, even Superman 1 and 2 were shot together.
Yeah.
The Lord of the Rings movies. The breaks in the Lord of the Rings movies are contingent with the book.
Yeah.
Even the Hobbit movies, whatever you have to say about the Hobbit movies, their endings, which were most likely, more written by Peter Jackson than they were the actual story, made sense. Here's your cutoff. Here's your cliffhanger. Here's your Act 1. Here's your Act 2. Here's your Act 3. But here's your Act 1, 2, and 3 structure in those.
Well, those movies are also all filmed together.
Right. We got Acts 1 and 2 in this. There was not. I don't feel like there was a satisfactory Act 3 within this story in and of itself. There was no satisfying conclusion that will lead us to a better cliffhanger than, oh, look, that guy's running out of worm. All right, Zendaya, let's go off to your magical cave.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I were Denny, I'm hoping he maybe did this. Fingers crossed. I doubt he did, but I would have filmed maybe a little bit more than what was shown there, just to kind of get us to the 3-year break.
I kind of feel because of the way this was done and the way that Warner's handled this, that wasn't done.
Yeah, I'm. This one, I'd be kind of more. I'd be putting more faith into Denny's filmmaking abilities than Warner Brothers' executive abilities.
No, yeah, I understand that, but there was only so much you can do working with other people's money.
Yeah,
and exactly. Legendary is essentially a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, and it's the same thing. They can only do with what they can do with the money that they have.
Yeah.
If they were given that money to shoot an extra 20 minutes worth of film that you can then use for a subsequent sequel,
all right.
Quite honestly, what you end up with is another Snyder Cut debacle. This mythical assembly cut of something that doesn't really exist. And if you watched it, you would like, what the fuck is this? This is what I was promised. Until they dump another $100 million into it and then reshoot everything because that totally existed, right?
Yeah.
But I digress.
Anyway.
I mean, all in all, I really enjoyed this movie. I just went back and started to rewatch it again to see if there's anything I'm missing. I know Cicerone brought this up, and a few other people brought this up that you can hear the Toto score in there. I haven't heard it yet.
I haven't really listened to it. I will say though, again, not being the big. I mean, I haven't read the book in probably over a decade, and I haven't seen the Lynch movie in a long, long time.
Also on HBO Max.
Yeah, but I will say that this movie did kind of trick me with the visions about. Oh dang, what was it?
Not about the dog. I know you don't have visions about that dog.
You really just like that dog sometimes. But who's the Fremen that Paul has to kill?
Oh, Jamis.
The movie did kind of throw me a curveball because he had those visions of Jamis saying, "Oh, I'm going to teach you the ways of the desert." And he was like, "Oh shit, he just killed him." What? Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's just, and that's in the book. It's
I know, but again, as someone that doesn't have an intimate knowledge of the book like you.
Exactly. And even still, I read that book like once every 8 to 10 years. I mean, I think quite honestly, by default, it's my favorite book only because I've read it more than I think I've read any other book. But I liked. Again, I'm not trying to knock this movie. I'm knocking more the decisions that were made to make the movie that we got over. I'm not this is your front running candidate for Best Picture. This is not. It's a good movie, and I hate to say that it's going to be one of these movies that the fans blow completely out of proportion. If I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I could very well see this one going for like a best cinematography, visual effects.
It's going to be all the stuff that Villeneuve's movies get nominated for.
Yeah.
Cinematography, art direction, score, editing.
I also, another thing I did like about this movie that just came to mind, I like how they handled the sandworms. The fact that you never really saw them other than the mouth until that end moment where Paul is facing one down.
Yeah, I like that too. I like that you need some mystery with that. I love too, and this is just kind of a cool thing that they did. This never addressed in the Dune book in the '84 movie, is that essentially, let's be honest, Arrakis is just a planet made out of cocaine. The wind blows, just like, hey, look, it's there. And that
I smell the spice. I'm having a vision.
Air itself can addict you to the spice, which is really cool. That is some really cool stuff that they had going on there. The worm design is really interesting. I mean, apart from the fact that, it looks like a big toothed butthole.
So you're saying it looks like a Charlotte pit.
Kind of, yeah. But it's like, maybe it's me. Maybe because, I mean, even on my The Spice Must Flow T-shirt that
It has a
so
sandworm.
graciously gave me a few years ago, the worm is the three-pronged mouth.
Yeah.
And I just, in my mind, that is the worm I'll accept. I'm fine with this worm. I really, really am.
I actually like this worm more. Like I like the fact that the mouth just looked like almost a tunnel of teeth.
Well, it makes sense too if that's how you get your Kreese knives, because that's what the Kreese knife is. It's the the tooth of Shai Hulud.
Oh, actually, speaking of which, the scene with the hunter seeker, I really like that. Where he's standing in the holographic bush.
Yeah, the hologram.
That was a cool shot. That was a really cool.
That was really cool. And all right, and this is one thing I like that the '84 movie just couldn't help itself doing. There's no voiceover. There's no internal monologues.
Yeah,
I liked that when they're communicating as conversation or as asides or in another language.
And the sign language.
Yeah, the sign language, exactly.
That was cool.
Exactly.
That was really
but there's
cool.
that stuff with Kynes, where she sees that he is, he's wearing his still suit, desert fashion, and he's just this. It felt like the proper way, and these are the you're going to take these ways as if you were born to them. He just says that in the Fremen language, which is really cool. She got a better. She got taken out way more nobly than she did Max von Sydow did in the first movie.
Yeah,
and
summoning the sandworm rather than just being killed by a spice blow.
Well, even in the book, you're just told that he's just left to die in the desert. But doing that and the pounding to get that rhythmic thing, but I'll tell you, walking without rhythm was like the worst looking Dance Revolution thing I've seen.
Yeah.
Dance, slide. Dance, slide, slide.
Speaking as someone without rhythm, works for me.
Yeah, exactly. Who am I to throw stones, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, wrapping it up, I mean, I'm enjoying the second viewing. Now that I can kind of brace myself to know where it ends. I feel like when part 2 is released, we're going to have to revisit part 1 again. We're going to have to see how this works as one continuous movie, because that is, if you're going to do this in this first book, and this was a very deliberate choice to do this, they have to match up. The ends have to join together, because if it feels disjointed and it feels like a sequel, like an actual sequel and not a, second part of the story, then it's going to suffer. It's really going to suffer. And I'm hoping that doesn't I'm really hoping this doesn't happen. I know I sound negative, but
they have to try and pull like a Deathly Hallows type thing.
They do. That made a lot of sense. It was also the last book in the series.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like this is best, quite honestly, it's best for television. It really, going forward, maybe if you can get Chalamet for, you get Chalamet back for Dune Messiah. After that, put it to TV, start with Children of Dune, work your way down to Sandworms of Dune. Is that what it is? Yeah, Sandworms of Dune. And
don't make me get up my DV copies of the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries.
You know what? I always hated those until I watched them when I was like, I was riding an oxy high. It was right after my vasectomy, and I'm like, these are actually pretty good. I would have honestly done a repaint of everything with the Lynchian designs, because say what you will about the Lynch film, the still suits from this movie take a lot of inspiration from the Lynch look, more so than what like the Herbert look was, which was essentially a white hooded suit with a full face mask on. I like the scuba look, the rubberized suit with the ribs,
Yeah.
the nose piece. And I know that's an actor thing. You want to see your actors' faces.
Yeah.
But it was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. I'm glad they didn't have a little straw right here. And just so you are aware that urine and feces are stored in the thigh pouches. So,
Yum.
yep. What is this movie about? It's about pooping in your suit.
It's a poopy suit.
There's a whole lot. By the way, there's a whole science in there that I thank God they didn't broach about how, if you're going to wear this thing, you're going to throw a catheter in there and it's a tube up your butt so the poop can actually go into the thigh pouch. And I hope you like sweating because you're going to sweat a lot. But it's going to give you potable, drinkable water.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, that was Dune. I'm really interested in seeing what your thoughts were on that. Let's be honest, and please leave a polite comment below. Did that ending really turn your opinion about what you had seen up to that point? I'm really curious about that.
You see, for me, it didn't really bother me.
Right.
I didn't have an issue with it.
Right, again, exactly. I'm sitting there with my spice beer and my nose thing, like, what?
If are you okay? Let's put it this way: are you like just a casual fan of the book, and did you watch the movie and did it not bother you, or are you like a big, huge, deep fan like Andy here?
Have you at least read the first 3 books?
Yeah, and if so, did the ending bother you more?
Did that affect you? Or if you're just a film nerd and you know how Warner Brothers is known to sit on their balls from time to time, or most of the time, are you worried? Are you legitimately worried? It's a fair point. Doesn't lessen your enjoyment of the movie, but let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Could it affect what we see 2 years from now? I'm very interested in seeing that. So again, leave a polite comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. Give us a thumbs up too if you like this video. If you like this video, share it with your friends too. Like, hey, these 2 idiots are talking about Dune. The one who's wearing the glasses didn't like the ending. Nerd. You can share that with your
glasses because of reflection.
Yeah, exactly. Now I wear my big glasses now because I look like a scientist.
These things.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, we're doing that. Also, Mike and I host a little podcast called Geek Salad. You check us out wherever you get your podcast. You can now check out both parts 1 and 2 of our top 20 ranking of the top comic book movie villains and antagonists. I really hope you like that. Those 2 episodes. Mike and I are going to be coming back to the podcast in about a week or 2 to discuss the shows that, no matter how bad they are, we just cannot stop watching them. Essentially, that why am I doing this to myself type of shows.
All right, they'll get better, right? They'll get better, right? They'll get better, right?
He's gonna leave it, right? So anyway, check out all of our episodes. You can get those wherever you get your podcast. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio and on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. Don't forget to check out our TeePublic store, which is teepublic.com with keyword Geek Salad Podcast. Check out all of our wares and merch. And until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
Go forth, be nerdful, and the spice must flow.
Oh, cool.